Hello guys and welcome. In this video I will show you some key features of the new Retouching Toolkit. The new toolkit comes as a standalone application that is the heart of the new add-on and panel setup. It allows you to fully customize any panels and even design your own panels. We've even added an installation wizard that makes it really easy and you don't have to worry about any manual steps to get it up and running. Once you're in the configurator, you can link any actions, brushes, presets, scripts, or even Photoshop menu items. The add-ons that we provide comes pre-configured with a lot of scripts that expand the functionality of Photoshop. And all of these will install really easy, and you get the nice layout that we have provided that fits both beginner and full-time professional. So let me show you. And let's go to the configurator. So let me first just delete everything. So when you run the installation wizard, you're going to end up at this step. I've already installed it, but what you do is, these are the two add-ons that it comes with today. We are expanding on this very shortly. But the new Workflow Addon is basically an upgrade of the old, where I spent a lot of time really tweaking my own workflow and how I think most people will benefit from it. I researched almost every technique, several days trying all the methods that are available and coming up with new ideas. But anyway, so the only thing you need to do to either install or upgrade. So there will be upgrades to these panels once we make changes. And once there is an update, when you start the configurator, it will tell you that there's an updated version of the retouching workflow, for example. And then you click on install add-ons and you click install. And if you want the legacy panel, which is the old 2.0, if you're used to that one, it's a good thing to have because it has some features that we haven't moved over yet that will soon come as new add-ons that are expanded. So then the install button will download it. So I downloaded these two now and I finished the installation. And that will put the stuff inside of Photoshop. And now it asks for administrative privileges or root if you're on Macintosh. And the only thing this does is it copies in a script for swapping layers back and forth, which is really useful. So I'm gonna install this. And then it says installation was successful. And as you can see, I have two panels here now. And if I save the layout and go back to Photoshop, I already had it here, but so let's close this one. Then you can find all the extensions. So you can have up to 9 extensions in Photoshop, our panels. So if you look at the numbers here, it says 1. Then you go to Window, Extensions, and the 1. And this is number 1. And this is my workflow. And if you want the legacy one, you go to number 2, because that's what I set up as number 2. And you can put them anywhere you want or dock them on the side, like so. But let's close this one. And let's hide number 2, because it's not important. And then, if you want to decide to create your own panel, you can just click on New Panel, and a new panel opens up. And then you have elements that you can drag in. Actually, let's hide the first one for a second. So if I want the button, I drag in a button. The group one is if you want to stack several buttons, so I can have side by side. The stack is also the same, but it joins them together. So this is good if you have several buttons that does the same thing. So it's only like one button row with a single line between. We have a toolbar. So if you want tools, you can add them here. So for example, if I want a couple of tools here, I'm just gonna drag in some random ones. These here are all the Photoshop tools. So if you want the curve, for example, you can drag it in here. You can also change the icons. So we include the Font Awesome library, which has a lot of icons. So let's do a cake because it's cool with a cake. And the custom icons in Font Awesome, you can also add colors to. So if I want the cake to be pink, I can have it. And then back to this one. Let's make a new panel just to show another element. So we have also one that's called Toolbar Flow. If I add this one, and then I'd add icons like so, you can see they are aligned to the left. But what this means is that it flows. So when the panel gets smaller, they flow. So you can make a tall panel with all your favorite tools, and then you dock that inside of Photoshop. So if I save this and remember number 4, so if you go to extensions, number 4 here, and I dock it to the side and make it smaller, it will go on the height. So now you can have your favorite tools here instead of the default toolbar. And the cool thing is you can run scripts, actions, whatever you want from these, just like I said. And the way you would do that, so let's show the button. And in command, everything here is from Photoshop. And if it's empty here, all you have to do is load from Photoshop, and it takes the latest actions and everything. So for example, if I want, so the scripts that are in the toolkit scripts are the ones that are installed with the add-ons. But you can place also your own scripts if you download it from the internet, or if you have other panels that have scripts, you can take them or link them. So for example, if I want the vanishing point here, and I make it green, and by the way, if I double click here, it will automatically set the name, which is very handy. You can also set right click options. If you go to options here and set advanced properties, this will show you more things that you can do, which makes the interface a little bit more complex to understand, but you don't need this if you're only worried about the basic functionality. But if you click on advanced, there's also, you can define options to the scripts. And a lot of these scripts have options. So for example, if I go back now, and the panel number 3 is the one we created, like so. If I click on vanishing point now on this image, doesn't make too much sense, but if I click on it now, it asks how many lines do I want for it. So 24 is the default value. But if I go back here and I edit the options for the vanishing point, maybe I want 12, hit enter, save, go back here, and now I want to refresh so it has the latest. I press load, and now when I click this one, it's automatically 12 lines getting added, like so. And then what you would do for, you just Control T if you want to move this and see where your vanishing points are in your image. It's really useful if you want to find the perspective and height of when you do composites and stuff like that. Let's take that away. So basically you have everything here like I talked about before. You can have the actions, You can link if you have all your actions gonna show up here. All your brushes are gonna show up here. Tool presets. There's even a very handy filter here. So if I want to burn, for example, everything that matches burn is gonna show up. Also pretty handy. And if you want to remove a panel, for me, I have to flip this off because I'm running in double size, so I don't see the outline otherwise. But all you have to do right here. So panel number 4, if I want to get rid of it, I just press the X on the panel 4 and it's gone. Now I save. If I reload this one now, it's going to be empty. Actually, I need to close it, but it's cached. Well, it's gone the next time you start Photoshop. So yeah, that's basically it. So if you want to borrow something from the panels that we created, you can do it very easily by just dragging something. So if you like my stamp current and below, you can steal it from here. And if you then run just install on this one again and finish, everything is restored because they have unique IDs. So whenever you install an add-on, it will overwrite only the one, the original one. But now I have my new panel that I created that has a lot of the stuff from here. So let's go into the features of the workflow just shortly. So the main thing about the new workflow is that it helps you into a good retouching habit. So what you always should do first is healing or repairing. So that's at the top here. After that, you should dodge and burn. And then you should fix your saturation. You can do it with the new selective saturation, but this one is going to take a bit of time to get used to. So beginners might skip this step, but it's a really good technique. And then you can just have a blank layer that says saturation. And if you paint with any color that's fully saturated, you're going to increase saturation. And if you paint with a color that's desaturated, you're going to desaturate. Of course, you wouldn't do it at this strength, but just to show you an example. So, and of course you have all the other like tried and true techniques, like a gray layer. It's just a click of a button. It locks the layer so you can't move it, which is a mistake that I did quite a few times in my early days. I think it's good to have it. Same with healing, so it goes into correct folders. So for example, if you use the folder setup that I have, and then all the buttons and everything has a right click. So left click will put it where you are in case you want a different structure. So for dodge and burn, if I left click, it creates a dodge and burn folder where I am. But if I right click on dodge and burn with help, you can see it moves into the dodge and burn and it adds the eye helper here. And the basic eye helper for dodge and burn is just the luminosity one. And this is what you want as a help layer. Don't use any other methods with black and white or taking down hue and saturation and stuff like that, because that's not the true luminosity. And then I also have a contrast layer that you need to tweak depending on the image, but just to get a bit more contrast, so you can really see more clearly. And then I also have invert, so it's a negative, because when you're dodging and burning, especially burning, you're working on highlights, and highlights might be difficult for the eye to see, but as soon as you invert it, the highlights are now the shadows, and it's much easier to work with, at least in my opinion. A lot is personal preference, of course, but that's just I think if you get used to this, because it's also using a negative layer also helps you not to get tired and fatigued about the image and keeping it fresh. So if you look at the same image for too long, your eyes and your mind is going to get tired of it, and then you start missing all the stuff that you need to do. So for me, this is a really good way. Another way that I use a lot is I press R and I rotate my image. This has two uses. First and foremost, it helps me with my brush strokes. So certain angles are easier to do with the pen. And it also helps me not to get tired of the image. So like I said before, the fatigue. And another trick that I have for dodge and burn that I teach in all my workshops and all that stuff is to try and do as much as possible when you're zoomed out. So for example, I would actually do most of my work with the image like this, in this zoom size. Going in too far and you are gonna get blind with how the image looks in full. Sometimes it's really good to go in for specific healing, or if you want to remove a hair or something like that. But just make sure that you go back out afterwards and then continue. But anyway, so back to the workflow. I always start with healing. So I right click now and it ends up in the repair folder, and I have a eye helper here. So this one is a bit extreme, but it really helps. So you can really see all the differences and everything. And then you also have the solar curve, which is something I use on hair a lot. Another cool thing that we have is the content aware healing. So there's tools above each section that belongs to that section. And even here in frequency separation and all the other stuff. So the content aware healing brush here is not set to sample all layers. It's set to current layer, which means it doesn't work on a blank layer. But the thing is, if I set it to sample all layers, I can't use help layers. And so sometimes when I work with an image, I do grading and some other stuff like color corrections or whatever. Sometimes I do it before I go down and do healing. If I were to use sample all layers, I would have to make sure to turn everything off above. And again, I can't use help layers. So what you would do is you do a stamp. And this is a pixel layer, of course. Let's see if I can get bigger size. Looks good. And this tool, yes. My keyboard shortcut stopped. Okay. So like this hair here, it does a pretty good job. And that means I don't have to spend all the time for, and like these dust spots here, and it's really easy to take care of with the content aware, and it's quick. And content aware has gotten really good in the later versions of Photoshop. And sometimes they leave behind some weird stuff. And you have to be careful about that. But since you're able to use help layers, this solar curve here, you will see it instantly if you create like weird halos or anything like that. So it's my favorite method to work with hair. At least for an image where I don't have a budget to spend several days. If there's a hair campaign, then you will do a different approach. Of course, then you need to clone everything to make it really good. and you're gonna also have to paint in a lot of hairs to make it really, really good. But so like on this side here, there's a lot of stray hairs, and you, without the help layers, it's not that easy to see exactly what you need to do, and especially this. So I had dust on my sensor, I guess. I'm taking this out. This is something that you wouldn't see without the help layers. And I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, but I just want to show you. So here's another hair. Yeah, like so. Maybe this spot. So as you can see, I fixed quite a few small issues at least. One clever thing about the new toolkit is that even if you have like a pixel layer like this that adds to the file size, there's once you're done with that pixel layer, you can click on this one that says delete identical pixels. I would just put it like this first, and then delete identical pixels, which does a merge and compare it. It only removes the stuff that are totally untouched. So if you see before and after, oh, my shortcuts are not working in this version of Photoshop for some reason. Anyway, so, and we run the script again. And you get the stamp. So the stamp looks like this. It's only what we healed, which I think is pretty cool. It reduces the file size quite a bit. So then once you're done with your repair, you move on to the dodge and burn, and you need to turn off this, of course. And in the dodge and burn, you work on these layer masks, and you can use the brush presets here. So left clicking on this one gives you 9 pixels. Right clicking or holding down yeah, there we go. So holding down Alt or Option on Macintosh, or Alt on PC, Alt Command on Macintosh will do the right click. So this one has 9 and 35, and this broader brush has 75 and 150. So they're fast shortcuts for the dodge and burn. And honestly, when I do my dodge and burn, I zoom out and I turn on the eye help for the luminosity, and I add some contrast. So now I work on this, and now I want to do the darker parts. So brush, and again, shortcuts not quite working. I have to fix this later because I changed version of Photoshop and it didn't follow. So just gonna do a really quick job here just to show you how I work. I like to stay zoomed out because then I don't get stuck on details. And sometimes if you go too far, you can just swap. And it's like when it's a little bit of trouble area like this, yeah, I might zoom in later, but I just want to do a quick job first to really take care of the biggest issues, because the biggest issues is what everyone's going to see when they see your image. So it's really good to take care of it from a distance. And you can see I'm working really slowly, and that's the way I prefer it. I don't like so there's a couple of different schools to dodging and burning, or techniques, or how people use it. I prefer to not go too far and having to turn back the layers, because I'd rather build it up. If I were to go too far and then have to dial back the whole layer, that means that I'm destroying the stuff that was correct just to take care of the stuff that I went over. So I'm just creating a lot more work for myself if I do that, and I don't like that. And the result is usually not as good. So my recommendation is really to try and do it gently, and then instead of having to dial back the adjustments. So I'm not gonna finish this image because it's gonna take a little bit more time than, or actually it wouldn't take too much time, but now that I'm talking, I'm doing it much slower than I usually would. But anyway, so that was too strong. I still want to show you how I work with this and how I do my retouching. So there's a little bit of issues here with the chin, so I would zoom in. So if I am here, it doesn't look like I have too much issues. And that's the problem that most people have. They retouch their image at 100%, and it's really bad. So what I do when I know there's an issue here, I would zoom in and out until I see it really clearly. So right now I see it really clearly. And then I see that there's a few issues I want to take care of. And now the shortcuts work. Interesting. Yeah, W is not working though. Let me fix that quickly. Tools. It's actually set to W and it's not working. That's interesting. Oh, now it does. I guess it was a glitch in Photoshop. Yeah, so, and then I try not to do too much on the dodge. I want to have an even image as much as possible. And the contrast doesn't even really match for the inverted one. So here's probably good. Now I go to the burn, and now I have to think the opposite. So the dark spots now are actually bright spots, and that I want to take care of. So I do that. like so. Maybe some here. And even though here I see some issues where I need to zoom in, I really try to stay zoomed out anyway, because and I need different contrast for the forehead to be able to see it more clearly. So maybe like so. And yeah, something like that. It's hard to do when you're talking at the same time. But anyway, so here's a bit of a highlight as well. And here. Yeah. And of course, there's other parts of the body. It's important to not only focus on the face. So like now I noticed that I need to heal some more stuff. I can go back here and do it like this on the healing layer. And now use the regular healing brush. Sample, paint. And I want to sample some with a similar texture. Usually helps. And I don't want to take away everything because I want a little bit of realism to the image. So that didn't work. So maybe like so. Not going to zoom into this one. Yes, you get the idea. And now back to some dodge and burn. Turn off this. Go back to dodge and burn. Don't want the invert, but I want some contrast. I might tweak this a little bit. Yeah. And dodge. I want to keep the shape of her muscles on the back. So there's a little bit of anatomy going on. But not as strong. Want a more even shape. And as you can see, I made some stuff worse. But then you just go back. And then you zoom in a bit to fix the remaining stuff. The thing I don't worry about if I create a few issues now. I only want to keep the overall shape and make it look good from a distance. So what I'm focusing now. Yeah, maybe something like that. And now I need to zoom in a bit because I want to shape her nose a little bit more even. I'm going to burn it a bit to make the shape. maybe something like this. Of course, there's more stuff that need healing, but again, I'm trying to keep this a little bit short as possible, just to showcase how I would use the toolkit. And we need some work here. I'm not taking away shape now, I'm just making it nice transitions. So don't want blotchiness in the lightness, I want even. But I still want to keep the main shapes. So if I were to use any blur or filter here instead, I would lose all of this. And it would be really flat. I don't like that. So instead I keep the shape. I haven't set it up now, but there's also a script in the toolkit that you just add a shortcut to. That means you can swap between layers. I can show it actually. So in scripts, there should be, I didn't install it for this one. But if you have, when you do the toolkit installation and you select the correct version of Photoshop when you do the install, it will install into that version of Photoshop. I didn't, this is 2019, so I haven't, not burn. I haven't installed that script here, but it's really easy to do. You just select that you want it for 2019, and you're ready to go. So yeah, I think I'm done with the dodge and burn for now. There's some blotchiness left here, I guess. A little bit. And the thing is, when you zoom in and out, you're gonna see different parts of the image, different frequencies. So zoom in and out a lot and just fix the stuff that pops up at the different frequencies. Don't get stuck with the same zoom level for too long, because that's then you get in trouble. And of course, if you're doing a beauty image, you should really, after you've done all this stuff, if you were doing a beauty image, you go in here and then you take care of this, like the small blotches, and make it really, really nice. Yeah. But anyway, this isn't a dodge and burn tutorial. I just want to show you how easy it is. As a sort of an overview how you would work with the toolkit. Now I can turn off my eye help and my repair like this. And if I look at the before and after, quite the difference. And then I just continue like that. So, and the new selective saturation is also really handy. So if I use that and I turn on the eye help, you can see some inconsistencies. So the eye help for the selective saturation is not something you should have on all the time, because it doesn't show the luminosity. So you have to judge it according to luminosity. So I see some spots down here that needs to be taken care of. And it needs to be saturated. So what I can do after I judged it by turning it back on and off, I can do the same as with dodge and burn. I'll just paint white on the mask here where I want a little bit more saturation to even it out. And I know this because this area had similar luminosity when I flipped it back on and off. So that's why I know that I want to add saturation here. Maybe even here a little bit. And this helps because you're not going to face too many color issues if you take care of this stuff. Maybe even here a little bit to even it out, because I evened it out with the dodge and burn. Yeah, something like this. Maybe up here. Yeah, a little bit. Like so. Pretty happy with that. Then color corrections is usually curves for me. And the way I do it is I make a selection if I see a trouble area. So for example here, I think it's too red or some weird stuff. So I would go into curve. And this now has the mask of the selection I did. So if I make any changes to the curve, like so, you can see it's only affecting that area. But I want to take away red, so I would do a little bit less red. And don't worry if you go too far here, because it's a bit of a practice, I guess, but now I want a bit more yellow. So now it looks horrible, but that's just because I know what I need to do to take care of it. So this layer here now will take away red and a bit of pinkness. So now I can paint with the low flow and paint it in here. This is a bit advanced, guys, but this is how I work, so I wanted to show you. Yeah, and it's probably not something you can see, but I took a bit red away, maybe even a little bit too much. So either I go back into the curve. For curves, it's not bad to go back in opacity. Actually, it's not the end of the world. So maybe around here. And now I can see that I need to dodge that area a little bit. So I can go back into, so it's a completely non-destructive workflow. I know I need to go back here and work a little bit. Maybe like so. Yeah. And turn off the IOP again. Now it's pretty good. And I will continue like this over the image. I see there's some issues here. Let's see if it's in luminosity. A little bit, not too much. A bit of a color issue. So then I fixed luminosity first. Maybe like so. And I see some issues here. And again, this is the danger of working zoomed in, because now I see so much and most of this stuff really doesn't matter. I see some texture issues now, whatever. But the thing is, people are gonna watch your image like this. So if you leave a little bit of that stuff, it's just gonna look natural and you're not gonna have to worry too much about it. I see a healing issue, so I can go back to healing. And like so. And there's a lot of small hairs I should take care of. But again, this is not intended to be a full beauty retouch. I just wanted to show the new workflow and how I would work with it. So, and here we have a hair. This one is actually really good with the content aware, but since I removed that layer, I'm gonna do it anyway. Yeah. So there you have it. I went to how I work with the repair, how I work with the dodge and burn, how I work with the selective saturation, how I do my color corrections. So now we have the help layers and dodge and burn on. But if I want to do more color corrections, that's the method I would use. So like here, we have the same redness issue, so I can reuse this layer actually, where I took down a bit of redness, like so. And before and after, I'm not sure you can see it, but for me it's very clear. And there's some luminosity issues here, so I might go back. So most of the time I'm more careful, but I needed to be a little bit quick here. I might speed up this part a little bit as well. We'll see. So like so, maybe. And then I see a bit of saturation issues there, and now I don't even need the help layer, so I go to desaturate and just paint a little bit of desaturation on the stuff that I fixed, like so. Yeah, so it's really good. I like this a lot. And then for color grading, whatever method you prefer, I like the selective color one for myself personally, and I like to use masks for it. And an easy way to grade an image with the selective color is to just go through every color. So let's see what happens. So I like it a little bit actually less red, like so. Let's see with magenta, maybe towards green, a little bit yellow looks good. Then I go to yellow. So reds and yellows is mostly skin tone. And here I'm looking mostly at the skin now. And greens, nothing much happens. Cyans, I don't think there's any blues in her eyes, a little bit, not much, a little bit. So we could boost it a little bit like that. Magentas, not gonna be much. The lips is a little bit actually. So we can make that actually a bit brighter. Maybe we should do that with the blues as well. So. And of course, then we can grade the highlights. So I want the background to have a slight tint to match this type of image. I might want to go a bit extra on the science actually. So a little bit blue, a little bit of blue. So neutrals. Don't think I'm gonna do much here because that's what I did. And the blacks might need a little bit of lift to make our hair like so. Maybe a bit of blue to give it a nice tone. Yeah, something like that. Maybe I usually play with a lot of curves and stuff like as well, but I just want to show you a really nice, clean way to grade. This is usually what I do, like so. I like it. And then I would do a contrast. So a little bit of contrast without boosting the colors too much. Maybe like so. And maybe even a levels to check the endpoints. Yeah, so I would make the brightness a little bit brighter. And like so. Yeah, I have many more steps that I do on an image, but I wanted to do a quick retouch actually. Just show you the new workflow and how easy it is. Now I have everything. I don't need the markup anymore. I can go to document and remove all the help layers since they're not needed anymore. And then I would save this image. So PSD probably. There we go. Save. Yeah. And if you want to see what I did, there's some color issues left and a bit more dodge and burn and some healing in the forehead and stuff like that. And maybe I would sharpen and stuff. But let's so let's duplicate this to a new image. And what I do now, I never scale or add sharpness to my original image. I just do the base retouch. So then I have a new image now, the merge. Now I will resize for whatever reason or output I'm going for. If it's for a print, I'll keep it as big as possible. So let's go to document again and resize the long edge. So let's pretend this is for Facebook. Do it like this. And then I set the copyright. So my copyright is, and as you can see up here, it says copyright. It's just that the metadata of the image says copyright. So pretty good to have. And then now I sharpen. So you can add contrast as well with the channel mixer, which can be very powerful for some images. Of course, not at 100 maybe, but just to get a crispness in your image. So before, after, I like it. And then I would add a bit of global sharpness to it. And like so. And it looks a bit over sharpened, so I would take it down. Amount, maybe like that. Sure. And then I want some sharpening on the details. So I look at a bit strong. Yes. And then I paint with a brush. A little bit higher flow maybe. So 10. And then I just paint a little bit where I want it. Like I want her eyes and her facial features, and maybe the earring needs to pop a little bit. And certain parts of the hair maybe. And I'm pretty happy with this. I could fix where I see there's a little bit of softness in the skin, just to even it out a little bit, like so. And then I always add grain because I love grain. That's me. And then I will go in here and go to noise and see. So the highlights one protects the highlights, so I'm going to take that away for now and do more amount. Too much. And the size looks about right to me. Roughness is fine. Then I protect my highlights again a little bit. And now I'm happy. I can see some sensor spots that I missed now, but whatever. So before and after. Just a tiny bit different. And then I merge. Go to document and save as JPEG. And judge it. It's a little bit over sharpened actually, so I would go back and turn down this sharpen layer a little bit. Like so. Maybe the contrast is a bit high as well still. The grain I'm happy with, so let's again merge. Just look at it. Needs some more work, but I mean, in the short time and just while talking about every technique, I think it looks okay. So before, let's do a before and after. So this is the before. And duplicate, merge, resize. Yes. Copy this one. This one actually. So before, after. Yes. Simple retouch, guys, just to show you the new workflow. Of course, you probably be able to do this much faster since I was talking about every technique and everything. And there's still a lot of stuff that I would do to this one. But it's still a good example, I think. And that's my workflow. I hope you like it. I will make some kind of speed retouch later where I actually do it the way so I take care of everything that bothers me. So there's still a lot of stuff in this image that I think needs work, but it still shows my whole workflow basically. And I think that's a good thing. All I need to do is work with this layout that comes with the configurator, and then I have an image. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments or anywhere else. We have a Facebook group called Retouching Toolkit User Group. We have a YouTube channel that's called Retouching Tools, not Toolkit, it's Retouching Tools. So you would go to, I can actually type it. Let's see if I can do that. YouTube. That would be the YouTube channel. And then we have our homepage, which is We have an Instagram. That's Retouching Tools. Oh, Toolkit actually. Like so. And the user group on Facebook you have to search for, but it's Retouch Toolkit user group. And we have actually a page on Facebook that's called Retouching Toolkit. So just search for those and you can find many informations and where to find more videos and get in contact with me. So have a good night or morning, whatever it is when you're watching this, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for watching.